Hi everyone, this is StarLadder TV. We here in new comfortable studio. By the way, is it more comfortable than you have a previous time in Kiev?
Most definitely, most definitely. Last time I was in a nice little sweaty room in the corner, then out to the main stage. But I've already got my pad out in the main stage, but definitely sitting in this back room is most definitely comfortable.
So, how you can see, right near me sitting Tobi, the most famous commentator in German. Yeah. Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Luckily, I don't have to cast in German. I live in Germany, but I cast in English. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good. This is the first StarLadder which I've come to when Vlad hasn't destroyed me on the first night. So I'm feeling very, very, very prepped and prepared for today. That's good.
So last time you said you will never ever drink with Vlad, and now you was it truth, or you've made this mistake again?
I drank with him, but I think we're both getting a little bit wiser in our older age. So yeah, we're not going as crazy. But yeah, a good couple of beers here and there, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, that's good. So let's start our interview. I would like to ask you about the DreamHack. First of all, last time, as far as I know, you were the host of the tournament for at least for the last year. But now they invited GD Studio, not you. Was you disappointed when they invite GD Studio, not you?
Well, when the GD studio was there last time anyway. I actually worked with the good studio last DreamHack. Well, I say last DreamHack now. The main thing they changed was the fact I wasn't there and AC was there. And considering the fact that EG is working with them as well for the D2L to do the thing at Valencia, it didn't really come as a surprise. I was actually a bit of an anomaly. I shouldn't have been there as much as I was. Most of DreamHack's policies are they keep cycling through commentators. They don't keep one for an extended period of time, and I cast every single Dota 2 event that they had up until that date. And even then, they still asked me if I could help out and cast in the group stages, which I was happy to do. Like, you can't always be the #1 caster. You don't always have to be the #1 caster. It's fun to be the #2 caster and have some fun. So I was disappointed because I really love DreamHack. It's one of my most favorite events. Going to LAN events, like going to a Swedish crowd is just awesome. The Dream Arena is a place which I always want to go back to. So yeah, it was sad not to be there, but at the same time, I understood.
Okay, I want to ask you about GD Studio and the Young Summit a bit more. You were the first man who had a real big studio, not just apartment with a good PC. You first who had great co-commentators like Papi, Sundaran, etc. But now there is 2 more studios. Don't you feel less popular than you was a year ago?
Oh yeah, because well, a year ago I had a monopoly. Basically, I was the only guy who was streaming out every single day. I was one of the few people, if not the only person, that was actually having a full-time job as commentating. So I had so much more time to commit and actually give a better coverage for it. There was also less competitions going on back then, less big competitions. So things like the defense were the only standout competitions. Where now, like you're gonna have D2L, you're gonna have like your DreamHack Invitationals, you have your StarLadder matches, then you have your defense on top of that one. You got the Alienware Cup, you got all the other stuff coming out from China. There's just so much piling up that even if you do have yourself a high quality studio, you can cast a lower ranked cup and no one will watch you. It doesn't matter about production value because at the end of the day, people they want to see their teams play. If you do a great production, then they'll applaud you for it and you'll get more viewers because of that, because you get respected for what you create. And back in the days, I created something which was beyond the level of anybody else, which was consistent, high-quality stream. The overlays, while considered basic today, were like pushing the edge back then. And now we fell behind. We fell behind a little bit, but not for long.
I want to ask you about the rivalry between Join Dota, GD Studio, and Beyond the Summit. Is there any rivalry between these 3 studios? Because, you know, in Russia and Ukraine, there is no rivalry because only one studio is StarLadder. How do you choose the tournament you will cast? No, how it happens?
Let's talk about the rivalry between the studios. Obviously, like anyone who says, "Oh, everyone's happy, happy, joy, joy, friends," is bullshitting themselves. Your competition, at the end of the day, everyone's trying to forward a business. Like BTS, they're a brand new business. They've got to be aggressive in the market. They've got to really do a good job and do a good job all the time. And they are a big contender. The Good Studio is James Casual kind of group. They do a good job. They do their thing, and they do it well. And at the point I say I don't compete with them directly, but I use them as inspiration to advance what I should be doing. And yeah, I'm not going to say I get along with the guys, but as in the studio as a whole, because obviously competitors, I can't go, you know what, come here, friend, and then just say, well, I also want to do a better production than you, because then I'm slapping my friend, and it's conflict of my own personal feelings for that. So I love the guys who work in the studios. But as far as the organizations go, they're a driving force for me to move forward and for the whole of Join Dota to move forward.
Okay, I want to ask you about Join Dota's project, Talk Dota. How do you find this idea? How you saw it at the start, and does it similar with that you see now?
Talk Dota was something which, when it first started off, we weren't quite sure what we wanted to create. We wanted to create an update show, a place where people would come every week and they would catch up on everything that happened, and we would talk about it in detail. And then it kind of got really boring. It got boring for the hosts. Because every week you sit down and then for 30 minutes you can recap all the events, and we don't want to do that. It's a boring conversation. You want to sit there for 30 minutes and hear a guy saying, oh, this competition happened, this competition happened. If you want to do that, you can condense that into a good 5-minute block, or you read a news website. You don't need to have Puppy and Cinderin sitting there as we read through a list of competitions and say, what do you think? That's boring as all crap. So we ended up canning the show, or at least putting it on ice until it can be reworked. And I'm closer to a solution for that now. So hopefully Talk Dota will come back before TI, and we'll have a more refreshing and a lot more interesting setup for it. So it's actually talking about Dota as opposed to update Dota.
So Talk Dota wasn't popular?
Talk Dota was actually insanely popular. There's been a couple of other shows which tried to do talk shows for the Dota scene. MOBA Weekly was one of the original ones, combining Hon, LOL, and Dota together. Great idea. Much ado about Dota. Mad. They still run, but they're in a US time zone. They run it to 2 a.m. for the Europeans, normally 4 a.m. for you guys, and it's just a really bad time zone, and they're having trouble keeping the hosts together. It's always the biggest problem when you have a talk show, and I had Cinderin and Puppy. I couldn't have asked for 2 better co-hosts. But at the same time, Puppy's got his commitments to Na'Vi, Cinderin's now got his commitments to Mouseboards, so you can't rely on that. And kind of goes back to your question about your co-hosts. I was always known for having great co-hosts, and then everything started getting a lot more intense with my normal co-hosts that they couldn't spend the time and dedicate it to commentate, because they're not getting paid for that, and it's just a volunteer. They jump on, they get exposure, they get to give themselves their branding out to the community because they come and join me on my live stream, and hopefully so we can hire them for new events and actually give them more travel if they don't qualify for something, or a future in commentary after their esports career is over. So that's the way we kind of looked at it, and yeah, everything just got way too busy. No one really had time for it, and keeping a show like that running is a hell of a lot of work. So yeah. You can always go the opposite end of the scale, where you go BTS, and BTS, they don't have any pro players there. Merlini, he's an ex-pro player, he's retired. Gods technically was an Australian pro player, and now he is fully broadcasting. LD full broadcaster, Luminous full broadcaster. They don't have any pro players in their panel at all. They brought in 2 people for the Alienware Cup finals, and they brought in 2 Good and Bruno, who were not pro players, and they will definitely admit the fact they're not pro players. James actually quite good, and Bruno's very decent as well. But they're not pro players. They don't have that same kind of insight that a pro player can give. So yeah, it's this thing where we kind of have to choose. Do we take a reliable person that can always be there and be that foundation rock, or do we get the people which everyone wants to hear their opinions? But it becomes as a guest or a co-host, which one's better? And guest is kind of the only thing you can do at the end of the day.
Okay, let's talk about the future tournaments. Talk about the international. I wouldn't ask you about your predictions and stuff like that. I would like to ask you about your work there. How did you find Wagamama and why you choose him?
Well, originally, as most people would have guessed, I was waiting for Cinderin to fail in the qualifiers, and then I would have used him as my co-caster. Obviously, that didn't happen, and Cinderin, such a dick, managed to qualify himself. So I had a couple of choices, but not really that many of them. I wanted to have someone that could cast European time zones and cast a lot with me. So I started, so I could have some practice, have some ground time with them, and bring them over for different LAN finals too. So I have some one-on-one time with them at a LAN final and have some practice. So I looked through who was available and who would be good enough to be at TI. And really, the list is quite short. In fact, it was almost as depressing as last year, where I'm like looking through the list. I'm like, I'm not quite sure who I should take, because this guy is really good, but little LAN experience. This guy, like, where he's playing, this guy's playing, this guy's playing. Like, it'd be great if I could just go there and say, I'll take this player, I'll take this player, I'll take this player, because I've cast with all these players. Like, I'd just take Hani, I'll take Puppy, I'll take Cinderin. When they're not playing, they're casting with me. That would be a beautiful scenario. And probably the best one as far as the broadcast can go, but obviously you can't rely on a person who's playing to come and cast with you, and you can't ask that of them as well, because they've got to focus. Like, it's the international, they've got to focus on their game. So I went around and said, okay, well, who have I got experience casting with before? Who has professional insight, which I respect, and who has had LAN experience? And Wagamama was the obvious choice. I went through other choices like Merlini, but Merlini is also very much tied into the BTS studio, so he's casting a hell of a lot with them, and it would just be probably a conflict of interest for him to cast and practice with me. So then I thought, okay, who else would there be? There'd be Clairvoyance. Clairvoyance, he tries hard, but he's also, like, the way he expresses his opinion is very risky, so he would have been a very risky pick to take. Also, doesn't really have a lot of time to commit to commentate with me all the time, because I know he's trying to branch out. He's been doing casting for D2L, so I was like, yeah, maybe not. But he still casts me every now and then. Capitalist, Dota Capitalist, who a lot of people have really been enjoying on my live stream of late. He was actually a pretty big choice. The only downside for Capitalist is his LAN experience is pretty low, and he's a knowledgeable caster, but he's not the professional level I was searching for. Wagamama is the professional level I was searching for.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. So yeah, Wagamama was the professional level I was searching for. I had experience with him in the past. I'd have options to bring him into LAN events as well. So I put all that together and said, okay, he's the best option that's there, and I think he can still do a very, very good job. And the two of us work nicely together. So yeah, the only thing I've got to work on with him is getting his personality a little bit more out there. Wagamama, he's actually a fantastic guy, and you talk to him, and like, he's just such a lovable character, but my casts are pretty high intensity casts, so I need him to lift a little bit with me, but while still keeping me balanced, and that's something we're going to work on together.
There is a joke, again, in Cinderin, that he goes to the international to lose it again and join you as commentator. Is it possible, or you will commentate with Wagamama from start and to the end?
When I was told to select a co-caster, I was told very clearly by Valve, select someone that will cast with you all the way to the end. So I said, okay. They said there may be the option. They definitely will consider having pro players come and join me, because they know I work a lot with these guys and they want to have the best broadcast they possibly can. But at the same time, they basically said, don't plan to have that happen. It's like last year, there was the plan to have that happen when Cinderin would drop out for the European games. Cinderin would join me. And for the heavy Chinese games, Slash would join me. Obviously, miscommunication, shit hit the fucking fan, and no one ever wanted to see that ever happen again. So this time around, it's like, okay, you'll have Wagger until the very, very end, but there might be a case where we might sub in a professional player, and Wagger is prepared for that as well. And we've discussed that in very detailed.
That's great. And the last question, same as last time. There are 4 teams in Kyiv for now.
Yep.
can you predict the places and say some words about each of this team?
Okay.
Let's start from the...
Let's start from the bottom.
Okay,
Let's
okay.
start from the bottom. As far as the team which for me is the underdog and really has a very low chance of winning here, it'll be IC Cup. IC Cup has shown time and time again that they just don't have the experience and the composure to play. They did really well at Tech Labs 2 Tech Labs ago, because last Tech Labs was
the Newbe versus Pierre.
it was a show match,
Yeah.
if we're going to be honest. Yes, yeah, we can't class it as a tournament. But the Tech Labs before, they did really well. Resolution for me is a player I always love watching. He's fantastic to see on the stage. So I'm hoping they can pull out some magic, but they've got still a hell of a lot to prove. They showed us during the TI qualifiers that they really struggle, especially when the pressure is on. And they're going to be pressured. Their first game's up against Virtus.pro. And Virtus.pro is a team who I think can come first or come third. Virtus.pro, they choke on LAN. Last StarLadder they were here, they failed horribly. Yeah. And they know they failed horribly. And then at DreamHack, it was also the same thing again. And you can say things like, oh, it's just DreamHack, it doesn't mean anything. International's just around the corner. But if you can't get a good result on LAN, then you're not going to go over to TI and say, yeah, you know what, this LAN event, we're going to be great. So this for me is VP's last chance to prove to themselves that they can play as a team as well as they do online. They'll play as well on LAN. And that's the thing for me, where Virtus.pro, they could be amazing, they could be absolutely shite, and everyone being disappointed in them. Then you have Alliance.
Yeah.
And
4th place last time, you predict.
Alliance for me is the heavy favorite. Alliance is most definitely the heavy favorite coming into this one. They're a team which they're so stable, but their biggest problem of late is they haven't had time to practice and develop. It's the reason why they dropped out of VMS, so they could have time to boot camp and be prepared. Like I was talking to RK about all of this, and he was basically saying, yeah, we basically, we're testing strats in official games because we never have time to do it at another time. Like they can't just sit down one night and say, oh, we don't have any games tonight, let's go practice, because that one night is probably the one night they got off in a 3-week period. So yeah, Alliance is really being stretched about all of this. And I'm interested to see what they're capable of bringing to this LAN event and if they are prepared beyond the normal Alliance play. And that leaves our last one, Quantic, who never has any normal play. It's what Valant and I refer to as God-like Dota. It's just different, unusual. You never know what you're gonna get. Like this is Gob, the guy who brought an aggressive tri-lane with a tree and protector core, and that's what he brought into he did that on the StarLadder main stage. I'm like, man, I applaud him for this. He's got balls to actually. He doesn't care what game it is. He'll just pick the heroes he wants to play and thinks is really, really good, and that just gives him so much flexibility. And now he's playing with the French as well. They seem to have found this really good synergy between them all. Like when we take the 2 CIS and the 3 French and combine them together, you think it's a mix that just can't work. It's like looking at a Great Dane and a Poodle going at it. It doesn't seem natural. But it seems to work. It really seems to work. So Quantic, for me, they're a team that I would put in 2nd position, Alliance in 1st. And the reason I say that is because Alliance is a team which is a lot more stable. Quantic, they can be amazing one game and they can throw the next.
Even with Black?
Even with Black, like I don't really feel like Quantic have really had a hard time now that Soshka's been taken out and Black goes in because of obviously his wrist injury. Black is still an amazing player, and he's played with so many teams in the past. He's got so much Dota experience that just working with this team is going to be fine. Like, God Black will come in and say, okay, man, this is what I want you to do. And Black will be like, okay, let me farm. The only question I have is if he plays number 1 role or not. Because there is the talk that he'll end up on the long lane. And I'm hoping that's not the case, because Black, he is a farmer. That's what he does. He sits back and he controls lanes and he farms up completely. So either God Black could be forced to change up his style, and that would be to run an aggressive tri-lane and leave Black on a safe lane, which is something which Black has had a lot of experience at. In fact, he used to run long lane heroes, which were farming, but there was always the balance because there was a tri lane that would pull the attention away from him, so he'd have space to farm. So GodBlack, I would say Quantic's biggest strength in this competition has to be their tri-lanes being very aggressive and big playmakers. If they go defensive tri-lanes, like tri-lanes with a Treant Protector, for instance, I'm seeing them fall on their ass. As if they run it the way I think they're going to run it. They can run a defensive tri-lane, but they have to have Black on that lane farming. I really don't see him in another role. So maybe I'll get proved wrong this tournament. It's LAN tournaments. Anything can change. But yeah, that'll be my predictions for Quantic.
And in final, any shoutouts?
Shouts to all the hard guys over at JD that work their asses off and keep that website running. And shout out to everyone who tunes in. It's yeah, and follows me on Twitter at Tobi1Dota. Yeah, sorry, shameless plug. Yeah, I love my followers. They've remained loyal, and through the hard times and the good times, we still enjoy our Dota. So yeah, shout out to those guys.
Okay, that was Tobi1 from Giant Dota. See you.